Welcome back to another Supercoach video with me, JD. The AAMI series matches are over, and the thing I'm getting asked the most at the moment is, what's your team look like? Can you give us a team update? So it's not what I'd planned to start with. I was going to do some other content, maybe do a team reveal later on, but I guess we'll start with one now. And if I do have any big changes between now and round one, which is, I don't know, probably pretty likely, we can do another video then. But yeah, like I just don't want to be asked about it nonstop for the week. So we're going to go through the team, where it's at, some of the choices I've made, some of the decisions I'm grappling with, and happy to answer questions I guess you may have down below. So let's get straight into it. We'll go through the defense. So this is the line that we're struggling with most and is what caused the biggest shift in my team last video. So the lack of defender rookies has been a real big concern. I think we have at least a few that have put their hands up now. So Hinge has that really high scoring potential, but has obviously had problems with his shoulder in the past. Copped a knock, which isn't great, but still managed to play out the game and should be right for round one. I think he has decent job security too, and given the lack of defender rookies, if you do just want to run the 4 premiums and then 4 rookies in down back, I think you kind of have to select him at the moment. Paddy McCartan seems like a really good choice as well, playing a defensive intercepting type role in the Swans defense. He looks good. He's taken marks, played pretty well. I think for the price you're getting, should have good job security, should have decent scoring. He's going to be an on-field option. Gibcus for the Tigers looks really good. Maybe a little bit, I don't know. I think his job security is actually all right. I've seen some people like characterize him as high job security, low scoring potential, and I think he does probably have lower scoring potential. I'm not sold that he has high job security at the moment either. But I think it's reasonable enough, and we need defender rookie, so I'm happy to take him. He's going to get games throughout the year. They're going to want to develop him. So, yep, I think he's a good choice for now. And then De Koning is the one that has popped up a little bit in the sense that he's been a name that we've had in our teams all preseason, but I just didn't think the scoring was going to be there. And he showed great scoring potential, putting up, a 93 with, I don't know, 16, 17 touches, something like that, which isn't going to happen every week. He's probably played his best Supercoach game for the year already, but he is a real option that we can put on our benches, and by far the cheapest one. I guess the ones missing from discussion here is probably Sin is the biggest one, who only played a little bit at the end. There's still a chance that he gets a game for Port. I think he's probably like a sub risk, which is a weird way to debut, and maybe they don't do that. But even if he doesn't debut as a sub, I feel like he could get some later. But that said, if he was just named in their round one team and they dropped some of these other players like Mead, for example, I could see myself picking him. And then in terms of the premiums, so I've gone cheap here just to be able to fund other lines, and we'll go through the midfield in a minute, where I've really been able to stack it up and not only get 4 premiums, but also Rowell and Berry, which I think is a pretty impressive feat. I'm not sure if it's where I'll stay, because there are some slight sacrifices to defense and forward that have been made to make that happen, but it is possible, and that's what I'm showing here today. So yeah, down back, Ridley, I'm a big believer on. I think a lot of people in the pro community are fading him at the moment, but I'm quite high. I've mentioned a bunch of these reasons on the podcast at Fantasy Tech TV, so over on Supercoach George's channel. But effectively, he played heavy one-on-one lockdown defense, basically post-concussion last year, and lost most of his kickouts, so he was only taking 4 a game, and he still managed to score 97 for the year. He was also he had his knee strapped. There was some type of undisclosed injury or concern going on there. This preseason, he's not strapped anymore. He's done speed coach work in his own time. He's another year older, so he's very young. So the year of age and development helps a lot. And then he's going to be moving into that 50 to 70 game period this year, which is where you do see a lot of improvement in Supercoach scoring and performance on field in general. And then they've brought in Kelly to free him up. And so Ridley can play more of an intercept role this year, which is the aspiration thing we've heard from both him and the coaches as well. And I think what was pleasing was, even though Kelly wasn't on the side on the weekend, we did start to see him play loose. He had 5 intercept marks, I want to say, for the game. Took 5 kickouts, which was a touch over 50% of the kickouts. So I see him as someone that can go 105 for the year, and at his price, that's pretty good. It's very similar to Short, who at his price should also go to 105. So they both present some value, which is why I've picked up both of them for now. And once again, yeah, these are cheaper players compared to like Lloyd, Crisp, Stewart, Rich, for example. And then Whitfield and Hewitt, who I think I've both had both of them in my team for a while. So I'm not going to, I mean, Whitfield, I hopefully don't need to explain. And Hewitt, we kind of saw everything we needed to from the last couple of preseason games. Looked very good. Don't think he was going particularly hard. There were a couple of plays where he could have run through an opponent or laid a really hard tackle, which is what you would normally see him do, but he just pulled up from the play instead. And as a result, you saw him rack up, I think it was like 33 touches, but he didn't have any tackles and maybe only a mark or two, or maybe he didn't have any marks, but only had a tackle or two. And this is stuff that you would expect to see him get more of both of these during the season. So do I see him as a top 6 defender? No, but I think he's going to make us 100 to 150K and kind of be a good value option that suits structures like this, so we can kind of fit in the rest of the team that you can then decide to upgrade towards the end. Now, the biggest problem with this defense, if anyone's been checking buy structures at all, which not a lot of people do at this point, and I wouldn't base your team around it too much, but Ridley, Short, Whitfield, and Hewitt all share the same first buy, which is obviously a problem for my defense. I think there's a couple of things that do work for me here, which is that Hewitt and Whitfield already have mid eligibility. So when someone, for example, like Dacos gets his mid defense eligibility, which we assume is going to happen, I should be able to at least swap one around. Then I have a downgraded rookie at some other point, and I can kind of swap two of them into the midfield, cover through the first buy, which isn't ideal. But I believe of the midfield, only Steele, I want to say, shares a buy with them at the moment. So like I think I can cover my kind of buy round through that method, or I could trade out Hewitt at that point if it looked like he wasn't going to be a keeper. So yeah, that's I think the only real downside. And I guess I am betting against some of the big guys here. So like Lloyd, Stewart, Rich, Crisp, which is yeah, like a little bit scary. I've cooled on some of them a fair bit. I mean, Stewart's coming off the Liz Frank I've talked about. Lloyd, I think, didn't do particularly well over the back end of last year. And I just kind of don't see him going back to 115 anymore. Maybe he gets up to 110, but I think it's just as likely he gets down to 105 and kind of you're paying for his value, which is fine. It's the same with Crisp. It's probably the same with Stewart. I think you're going to get what you pay for. But with Ridley, Short, Whitfield, Hewitt, I all see upside. I all see value in these picks, and it helps with the structure. So that's where I've landed. And I have created that value. I've like downgraded or taken some slightly cheaper options in defense so we can pay up for this insane midfield. So we've got McRae, Steele, and Miller, as well as Neil as the 4 mid premiums that I've gone with here. And if you watched any of them play on the weekends, probably not too much to explain. I think Steele was probably the worst performing of the 4, but he didn't really look like he got out of second gear, if we're being honest. So yeah, this is quite nice. And then putting in Raul, who I've loved all preseason, and yeah, like I just want to try and fit all of these guys in my team, plus Berry as well. So yeah, Raul looked really good. Lots of contested possessions. Something like 18 off, I want to say like 27 touches or something. There still is not as much outside game or explosiveness that you would like to see, which is, I think, going to stop him from being like a true keeper for the year. But I think we're looking at a 100 average for a 350K price tag, which is really nice. You know, comparing, they're across different lines, so it's not a one-for-one comparison, but I think he probably outscores Hewitt for 50K less, right? Now, finding that mid-pricer in defense is probably a little bit more value just because there's so few of them and there's a lot more options in the midfield, both at the rookie, premium, and mid-pricer level. But yeah, like I just think he's incredible value at the moment, and I really want to root for him. I really like Raul. So yeah, I think I'm going to be watching a fair few Gold Coast Suns games this year if I take both Raul and Miller. Not something I can say I've done too much of in the past. And then Berry looked good. His week wasn't as good as the week before, but I still think he put up like a low 80s, which at his price is great. So I think, yeah, high job security, high scoring. He's done it in the past. Obviously, the injury history is a bit of a concern, but one I think we just have to start now. And then onto the rookies. So the big omission is Horne-Francis, who's kind of had to be cut to make this structure possible, which I don't feel great about. To make 150K, he has to average, I think, roughly 73 is what you're looking for. And he's going to be up and down. I think he'll get there at some point, but it's not like what we've seen with Walsh or Rao in seasons past, where they make like 250, 300K, not having him is a disaster. If that does become the case, I think I'm in a position where, you know, someone like a Rao or a Berry could be downgraded. I could maybe upgrade someone else to Horne-Francis and kind of correct it that way. So I almost don't mind sacrificing him because I do have outs to get back if I really have to. But I'm kind of betting that. Oh, I guess like regardless, I have to miss out on someone, right? So if I get in Horn Francis, maybe I have to miss out on Rao, whatever it is. And it's just that's the one that I think I can miss out on, and it's going to be okay. Both because I don't think he's got the upside to kill me with cash gen, and also I can kind of correct to him if I really need to. But yeah, that's where but I don't feel great about it. And I think Horn Francis is a perfectly fine rookie. I wouldn't be surprised if he was one of the most owned at the moment. Yeah, third most owned, 66%. So it never feels good like betting against 2/3 of the competition, especially when they're as talented as Horn Francis. They've got the big body. They look ready to go. Yeah, Dacos and Ward were both really impressive. I think Ward in particular, the only concern is when the other mids like O'Meara and Mitchell come back, whether they push him more to the outside where his scoring hasn't been as good in previous games or his performance hasn't been as good, but he looked amazing on the ball. And if they're rebuilding this year, then I hope they put him on there a lot because he surprised me to the upside. Stevens looked good from the Swans, playing a lot of outside game. I think he's got that spot for round one, and we probably need him because the bench rookies for the mids aren't looking particularly hot at the moment. I've got Saligo and McDonald. McDonald's probably, I think, pretty likely to get a game. Saligo is probably okay because they've got Laird out, and I think there's missing someone else. But we could get someone like Machito Owens or something with the Saints injuries. I mean, we could also get Wangan and Malira down back now. And there's someone else that I'm thinking of. Oh, Cooper Stevens played all right for Geelong, but I'm not sure he gets a game. And then you've also got Hoff for West Coast, who I think is pretty likely to get a game, even though he was just so-so with what he played. In the rucks, I've got Darcy and Grundy. So back onto Darcy. I was playing with Gawn here just as a safe option, especially with all of Darcy's niggles. But the upside's tempting, and I think we're going to have enough cover that if he does miss a game for whatever reason, it's not disastrous. You've got Hayes and Dixon that both look like they may play games as rookies. And then you've also got Cherry, who, if this is a real pick, in round 6, he's going to get ruck forward status. And then you've also got cover through that way as well. So, that's why I've gone back onto Darcy and Grundy. His score and game was pretty poor from the weekend, but he had something like 45 Dream Team for 95 Supercoach, just ridiculous ratio. It was just all hit outs to advantage. Apart from that, he was just jogging up and down the ground. I don't think he was really trying, to be honest, and it kind of makes sense given he's already had 3 or 4 niggles during the preseason, including that most recently, the fractured finger. His tap work was really good against Nick Nat, but his around the ground stuff was non-existent, and that'll pick up during the year. So I'm just worried that if I don't have him and he goes on an insane tear like he did last year, that it's kind of season over. And if he does that for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 rounds, and you've got Gawn who just goes at 120, even if Darcy then goes down at some point, I still think you're behind as the Gawn owner, despite the fact that you didn't use a trade to sideways. So yeah, that's why I'm on him. And once again, a little bit of extra cash over someone like Gawn, which helps free up, but I don't think Gawn's a bad problem. And then kind of funny that Bruce is a non-pick now. If you wanted to, I don't think you can start him with him being out for 1 week. You don't even know if he's going to be in the team round 2. So don't ask about Bruce. Don't do it. Don't ask about Wits. He's what's he priced at? Is it 70 or something? To be around that. And he's never averaged more than 100 before, and he's coming off an ACL. Not one I'd go after. Although he does present upside for Miller and Rao because they'll have a better ruckman hitting to them this year, which is nice. Hayes is on the bench, which I kind of talked about already. I hope he gets games. It might just be until Paddy Ryder returns, which could be in round 2 or 3 or something like that, and then he gets dropped, or maybe even gets dropped at round 1 if Ryder's back early and Dixon's one that we play on the ruck bench, and Hayes gets moved up for someone else, which is a little bit of a problem with this structure because I don't have a lot of cash left over at the moment. And then through the forward line, Dunkley and Butters. I think the big change from last time or the last few videos is no Heaney here. And the reason is pretty simple. It doesn't look like the forwards are going to be as dire as what we thought they were going to be. So we've both got more mid prices here that are, I think, really good options. So Cherry, McGovern, Brody, and Ralph Smith, and I'd probably have them in that order of selection. And then, of course, you've got Cogs, who's not only been a lock in there all season, but has performed so well during the preseason that you might even think that he could be a keeper at his price point, similar to what we got with like a Zeeble last year, which is pretty insane. And then Rochelle has impressed me. I mean, he's a bit like Horne-Francis. I thought he was going to be a non-pick this year. The elevated price tag, playing in a forward line for an underperforming team, thought was going to be an absolute no-no for Supercoach, but he has moved up the ground and looked really impressive, like really impressive and really fun to watch. It's going to be a great player for the Crows. And yeah, I just wish he'd slid to the Dons, which was never going to happen in hindsight. But yeah, a good on-field option. I think his scoring could be a little bit up and down just because of the nature of the role, but very solid pick. And then Cherry I haven't touched on too much, but I guess the thesis here is that if he takes over as the number one ruck at North, he is absolute value at his price, and he's going to get ruck eligibility in round 6. The big question mark, though, of course, is that they have Cherry, Comben, Callan Coleman-Jones, and Goldstein. That's a lot of talls. They've talked about playing 3, which I'm not sure they actually do. Do they drop Goldie? You know, they're in that transitional period now where they are trying to rebuild. Goldie's 34, 35. Cherry has performed well enough. I mean, he was basically best on ground on the weekend. I think Noble said he was in his top 5 or 6 or something like that. And Cherry's been one that's had consistent reports about him training down the house all preseason. To me, it feels like we could be at the point in time where they pull the trigger. Cherry's the number one ruck. You play Coleman-Jones and maybe Goldstein as well in your forward line, who can, you know, also provide relief. And that's the structure they go with. Now, the good thing is we're going to know for round 1 with the team sheets where they name them. And so if Cherry's named, I think, anywhere but as the ruck on field, then you bounce him out of your side and you move on to like a Brody or a McGovern. But if he's named as the ruck for round 1, I think you have to jump on him because he could be absolute gold for Supercoach this year. And then of the remaining rookies I haven't talked about, so Durden had a calf knock or complaint during that game, but he looks like he's locked into Carlton's best 22, played pretty well up until his first quarter was good, and then his second quarter fell off. I'm not sure if he got that calf knock early and kind of just played through it and then they pulled him off at halftime or what happened there. But yeah, all reports are that he'll be right for round 1. It was just precautionary. Don't need to take that risk. And his role isn't great because it is a smaller forward that occasionally pushes up the ground a little bit and it's at a higher price tag. But we don't have a ton of great rookies and his job security is solid. So yeah, like him as an option, I'd probably prefer him on the bench than on field. But with this structure, I have to play 2 forward rookies at the moment, which isn't great. I would love to have him be someone like a McGovern instead, which is really only possible if I downgrade like a Steele or a McRae to a cheaper mid option, which I'm probably not going to do. And then Nick Martin, is it Nick? It is Nick, right? This is bad. I should already know my players' names. Yeah, it's Nick. Okay, for the Bombers, who got picked up as a supplemental selection, came on for the last quarter and a half, I think it was, for the Dons and gunned it 16 touches in a very short period of time. Looked really good, really comfortable, playing up a lot around the ball, but he's meant to be someone that can apply goal scoring pressure. Yeah, kick goals. Good language work. So yeah, this is a curious one because I didn't have him in my best 22, but he looks, based on the performance he put together on the weekend, that he could kind of slide into some of those last of the best 22 slots for Essendon. My big worry here would be that he is selected as a sub for round 1, a little bit like Sin, given that that's exactly what he did in the preseason game and he excelled at it. So I'd be worried that that's the role he ends up getting selected for, which, yeah, once again, I don't have enough cash to really move him up to anyone that is in the 117k. So this is the team for now, I've basically achieved everything I've wanted, apart from I'm missing, say, like a McGovern or a Brody in the forward line, who I would love to have over Durden, and I'd still like to have Horne-Francis in the team. There just isn't enough money. The things that are going to make me change this team probably more than anything else is depending on what happens with the rookies. So if we get someone like a Sin, I could maybe change the defensive structure again, either by taking Gibcus out for Sin and freeing up 20k, which lets me fix a rookie somewhere, or I could even just take another defender premium out and play with that money elsewhere, which I'm not sure I would. And then, yeah, what happens with the bench rookies? So after Stevens, it's looking really dicey at the moment for what we get, especially when it comes to cheap mid rookies, and we're kind of somewhat reliant on those coming through. And then, yeah, the forward line, the rucks. I've got 3 1 or 2K players here, and I'm pretty confident that Dixon has the job security and will probably score enough. Like, I think he only needs to average like mid 50s to make his money at 102K, which should be possible. And then, yeah, Hayes, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, so I mean, if these don't get named, I'm gonna have to change team based on that as well. But a lot of this is now starting to wait for like, what do teams announce? What do round 1 teams look like? And yeah, that'll decide the structure from here. But overall, I mean, this is a 11 primo team, so 3, 4, 2, 2, which is 11, plus Hewitt, who's kind of a keeper, so you could say it's like 11 plus Hewitt or 12. And then you've still got Rao, Berry, as well as Cherry and Cogs. So the 4 mid prices and a lot of paid up rookies. I think this is a pretty nice structure. I think it could go a little bit safer if I culled, say, Rao and put another defensive primo in. I could, toy around with something like that. But yeah, I'm not gonna. Or actually, maybe it's not Rao that I'd kill. I'd probably be someone like Took or Steele. I'd have to take out. You upgrade, say, Gibkiss to another defender premium, and then you could put in McGovern in your forward line, and that's probably the safest version of this team with rookies. But yeah, I'm going to be waiting till round 1, or at least close to round 1, to fix that up. But hey, at least you now know what my team looks like. The players I'm kind of gravitating towards, the ones I'm less interested in, as well as the rookies that I think are going to fill up or, take up most of my team. So let me know what you think. Good team, bad team, what do you like, what don't you like? And then let me know what you're thinking about in the comments below. Otherwise, if you haven't subscribed, probably a decent time to do so, just because over the coming week or two, should have a little bit of content around the premium players that I haven't had my side all preseason, so the ones I'm avoiding, as well as then probably do another Rate My Team episode, hopefully get through another 10 to 15 teams from you guys in the community, have a look what you're thinking about and provide some feedback. As well as, yeah, hopefully some other content as well, but we'll just see how that goes. Anyway, thank you for viewing, thank you for your time, and I'll see you all in the next one.